Let's start with the truth that a lot of people feel, but don't often say out loud. The central confusing reality for many parents over 60 is that discussing money with adult children is the single conversation that triggers the most intense anxiety, fear, and avoidance. You might feel completely on top of your finances, everything planned out, but this one talk feels dangerous. This explainer is all about how to have that conversation. Not just to pass on info, but to really protect your independence, your dignity, and your family's harmony. We're going to show you how to take control of the whole thing. So, let's get into it.
And that right there, it hits home for so many people, doesn't it? It's a huge paradox. You spent your entire life working, saving, building a real foundation of security. And yet, the very idea of talking about that security with the people you love most can feel like walking on a tightrope. So why is that? Why does a conversation that should be about care and planning feel like such a threat? Well, I'm here to tell you it is not an irrational fear. That anxiety you might be feeling is 100% valid, because it's not actually about the numbers. It's rooted in something way deeper, the fear of losing your place as the capable, independent person in charge of your own life.
So to get through this tricky territory, we've got a really clear plan. We've broken this down into 6 parts. First, we'll get into the hidden financial truth to understand why it feels so risky. Then we'll look at what's really at stake, because the risks of avoiding this are real. Now, the heart of it all is Section 3, Autonomy through Structure, where we'll show you the key to staying in control. After that, we'll give you a safe and simple plan with actual steps you can take, share some wisdom for the long game to help shift your perspective, and finally, we'll leave you with your first proactive step, one single, easy thing you can do the minute this is over. All right, so let's dive right into that big question. Why does this conversation feel so perilous? I mean, it's easy to just write it off as being private or, we just don't talk about money. But the real reason, the current that's pulling underneath the surface, is something else entirely. And here's the absolute key to understanding this. The anxiety is not about the numbers on a page. It's about what those numbers symbolize, especially at this point in your life. Money is the tangible proof of your capability, your independence, your freedom to make your own choices. It's the story of a lifetime of your work, your discipline, and your decisions. So when you think about opening that book for your kids, it's like a subconscious alarm bell starts ringing. The fear isn't just about sharing info. It's about the feeling that you might be surrendering the very tool of your autonomy. Okay, so if we know it's not really about the money, we can start to figure out what's really going on. What's the true source of all this anxiety? Let's dig in a little deeper and see what's truly at stake here. Let's just ask it, right? When you picture yourself sitting down with your kids to talk about your estate, your accounts, all of it, what's the real fear? What's the worst-case scenario that plays out in your head? Is it that they might judge how you spent your money? Or maybe be disappointed in how much you saved? And yeah, those are real concerns, but for most of us, the true fear is something much, much bigger. And this is a really, really important distinction to make. We think we're afraid of being judged. What do they think about that trip I took? But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real fear, the one deep down, is about losing our autonomy. It's this fear that once your children see the whole financial picture, the dynamic is going to change. That they'll start seeing you not as a capable adult, but as someone who needs to be, managed. It's the fear that sharing information is basically an invitation for them to start commenting on your decisions, questioning your choices, and slowly, with the absolute best of intentions, chipping away at your control over your own life. And that fear? It's totally understandable. But it pushes us to avoid the conversation altogether. And avoiding it, that's where the real danger is. Because if an unexpected health crisis hits and your family knows nothing, the outcome can be the very thing you were trying to prevent. All of a sudden, they're scrambling. They don't know your lawyer's name, where your will is, or how to pay for your care. This vacuum of information can lead to a legal nightmare that could even end with a court-appointed guardian taking over everything, a total loss of autonomy. It almost guarantees conflict between siblings trying to solve a puzzle in the dark. And worst of all, it means all your careful plans might not be honored, just because nobody knew what they were. The great irony here is that avoiding the talk to protect your control can lead to losing it completely.
So, if avoiding the topic is a huge risk, but just opening up the books feels like you're giving up control, what's the middle ground? Well, that brings us to the solution, the main idea of this whole explainer, a way to reframe the problem and put control right back in your hands.
And here it is. This is the big takeaway. The one thing I really want you to hear. Your autonomy is protected by structure. I know, it sounds a little backwards, right? We usually think of structure as something that limits us, but in this case, it's the exact opposite.
Structure is like a fortress you build around your independence. By creating a clear, intentional plan for how, when, and what gets shared, you're not giving up control, you're actually asserting it. You get to set the terms, define the boundaries, and stop the very interference you were worried about before it even starts.
We give this framework a name. We call it a knowledge transfer protocol. Now, that might sound a little formal, but the idea behind it is super simple and really powerful. It's basically a system you create to give your family the essential logistical info they would need in an emergency, while at the same time building a firewall around your personal financial decisions, your net worth, and your privacy. The goal here is to be prepared, not to become an open book.
So here's the golden rule, the absolute core of this whole thing. You have to separate what you share from what you protect. On one side, you've got the stuff you share. This is all logistical. Think of it like this. You're giving your family a map and a phone book, not the keys to your entire life. The map shows them where to find things, your financial advisor, your will, your bank. The phone book tells them who to call. On the other side is everything you protect, and that's your decisional control. That means the specific balances, your total net worth, and the why behind your spending. Your family doesn't need to know how much you have to help you in an emergency. This single distinction is what makes the whole thing work.
All right, knowing the what and why is one thing, but how do you actually do this? Let's get into the practical side of things. And I promise it's actually a lot simpler than it sounds. It all boils down to 3 really manageable steps. First, we're going to create something called the Logistical Map. Then, we'll define our decisional boundaries. And finally, we'll talk about using a third party to help keep things on track. Let's walk through each one.
So, step 1, the logistical map. Just think of this as a master document, the single source of truth for your family if something happens. It should list the names and contact info for your key people, your financial planner, your attorney, your CPA. It should also list the names of the places where you have accounts, like checking at XYZ Bank or brokerage at ABC Firm. But here's the most important part. What's not on this map? No account numbers, no passwords, and absolutely 0 balances. It gives your family a place to start without giving them the keys to the kingdom.
Step 2 is just as critical. When you share this map, you have to set the rules of the game right up front. You can say something really calm and clear like, "Hey, I've put this together so you'll know who to call if you ever need to help me. But I want to be really clear, I'm not looking for advice on my financial decisions. Those are and will continue to be mine alone. This is just to make sure you're prepared." See, you're shutting down any potential interference before it even starts. And finally, step 3, think about bringing in an anchor. This is a game changer for a lot of families. When you have your trusted financial planner or your attorney in the room, the whole vibe changes. It's not an emotional family chat anymore. It becomes a professional, objective review of logistics. They can present the map, explain its purpose, and handle questions. They act as a buffer, keeping the conversation exactly where it needs to be, on preparedness, not on your personal finances. You know, when you start taking these steps, something really interesting happens. It's a subtle but powerful shift in how you see the whole situation. You're not on defense anymore, worried and avoiding things. You move into a proactive position of empowerment and foresight. This is about playing the long game for your peace of mind and your family's harmony.
I love this phrase, control through clarity. It just nails it, doesn't it? The anxiety we feel, it lives in the fuzzy, unknown what-ifs. But when you create clarity with a plan, with structure, with a map, that anxiety just doesn't have a place to live anymore. It gets replaced by the quiet confidence that comes from being prepared. You're not reacting to fear anymore, you're acting from a position of strength.
And really, what this all comes down to is your legacy. What story do you want to leave behind? The path of avoidance often leads to a story of chaos, of siblings arguing, of frantically looking for papers, of confusion and conflict when things are already tough. But this other path, the one with structure, creates a totally different story. It's a story of gratitude for your foresight. It ensures you're remembered for your thoughtfulness and for making a hard time easier on the people you love.
Wow. Okay, we have gone through a lot here, from the psychology of it all to a concrete 3-step plan. So let's boil it all down to your very first step, something you can do literally right after this. Look, if you walk away with just one single idea today, I want it to be this. That anxiety you've been feeling, it's a fear of losing control. And structure is the tool that protects your control. It's that simple. So here's your challenge, and it's a gentle one. I'm serious, just 5 minutes. When this is done, grab a piece of paper or open a new note on your phone and just start your logistical map. Don't aim for perfect. Just start with these 4 headings.
First, your advisors, your planner, your attorney, your CPA. Second, your account names, where you bank, where you invest. Third, your document locations, where are the will and the trust kept. And fourth, your digital access plan. How would someone get into your important online accounts? Just jotting down these 4 things is a massive step. It turns that feeling of anxiety into concrete action.
So, in the end, this whole thing, it was never really about the money, was it? It's about that deep, very human need to feel in control of our own lives, to maintain our independence. And I hope the biggest insight you've gained today is that you don't have to choose between being prepared and being private. With a simple logistical map and some clear boundaries, you can give your family the tools they need without ever handing over the reins to your life. Taking this one structured step, it's more than just getting organized. It's how you guarantee your dignity, it's how you protect your independence, and it's how you give your family the incredible gift of unity for whatever lies ahead.